Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Data Collector and Insights office hour. We're going to wait a few seconds here just to let everyone trickle in before we get started. So we'll give it another minute or two. Let's wait a few more seconds here. All right, I think we'll try to use as much time as we have here. I thank you everyone for being here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to today's Data Collector and Insights office hour with EDB, presented by Marques, support engineer for the EDB team. Just some quick ground rules here covering. So Martin is going to walk us through a presentation on the Data Collector and Insights tool. And after that, he will give us an actual demo of the tool itself within the support portal. We'll try to make some room at the end of the presentation for some Q&A from the audience. Friendly reminder, we have a chat feature and a Q&A function within Zoom. So feel free to raise your questions throughout the presentation, and we'll try to get to them as they come in. What we do not answer, we'll allocate time at the end to address the questions. If for some reason we don't get to all questions prior to the end of our hour, then we can follow up with you outside of today's office hour, hopefully in the next couple of days or so. So that being said, Martin, thanks for joining us today, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. So what we're going to be covering today is the Data Collector and Insights. Both tools are tied together, and I will show how they are tied together. But in short, the Data Collector is the tool that the customers can download and use on their systems to gather statistics that are needed for usually for support, but also for professional services. And Insights is just the visual user interface that customers can access in order to see the data the tests that we have collected. I'm going to show how to run the Data Collector and how to visualize this in Insights later during the demos. But let's just move forward first with the agenda. So first, we're going to talk about the purpose of the Data Collector. We're also going to talk about what the collector doesn't do. We're going to go through the workflow so that you know how you would actually use the Data Collector and how to access Insights. And finally, we'll go into a demo at the end. So what does the Data Collector do? That's like the big question that I usually get a lot, like, well, the Data Collector, what it does is just gathers operating system and Postgres catalog data for diagnostics. It's very useful for support when we have support cases. And we use it as a way to gather all the information in one run. So instead of asking the customer repeatedly in different replies for different data, we just ask them to run the Data Collector. And this will give us a snapshot of the actual system itself. Not a snapshot of the database, but a snapshot of the status of the database at that time. So we'll get things like replication connections. So if a customer asks, well, replication is not working, with the Data Collector, we can already see which replication status we have, and also if there are replication slots, if they're active, they're inactive. We'll also see running activity and the logs of those running activities. So it helps a lot into seeing if there is some backend that is locking other backends, which could cause performance issues. We also gather a lot of resources from the operating system, and this helps a lot with cases where the customer would come asking for some root cause of an issue that happened a few hours ago. So if the system has SAR set up and running, the data collector will gather statistics of resource usage for the last 2 days. And this means we will see how much CPU was used, how much disk input-output, how much memory, how the memory consumption was used during the past 2 days. And this helps a lot into finding possible root causes. We also have a large number of BDR monitoring output. So there's a lot of monitoring views that the data collector gathers. Those monitoring views are already available in BDR. And if the data collector sees that these views are available, that the BDR extension is installed, it will gather information from them. And there's a lot of other metadata and diagnostics that are gathered, like logical replication, even logical replication, and many others. It also provides, as I mentioned, a picture, like the snapshot of the database at that moment. And this helps a lot into knowing if you run it at the moment where there is an actual issue going on, there's an impact. This gathers the snapshot of that system and can give valuable information for our support engineers to help the customer as soon as possible. It expedites the solution of cases because we get all the data in one run, and then we can also provide the answers quicker. Now, once you run the data collector and you gather all this information, then comes the time to upload it. The nice thing that this has is that we also have some tests that are executed on the collected data. And these tests give some output, like, well, the number of max connections is too high, and we recommend using lower values just because it's best practice. All those best practice are implemented in our systems and are shown in what we call insights. Insights would be the interface that the customer has to seeing all the tests that we ran and also seeing the output of the data collector in a nicer way. So that's what the data collector does. Now, what is it that the data collector doesn't do? Well, first of all, it doesn't gather data from user tables. So we're not gathering data directly from the application tables. We're gathering from the catalogs of Postgres. We're gathering the table names, but we're not gathering the data that is inside those tables that you have, that your application uses. We also exclude from catalog any sensitive information. So if there are things like passwords, if there are some statistics where there could be some user data inside them, those columns are removed or redacted. So we check for literal strings in catalog tables, and we redact passwords. We also redact any other information from, for example, pgstat activity. So if you're running a query and in your query you actually have a value that shouldn't be known by anybody else except for the application or DBAs that are accessing the database, but not for people outside, we redact those. So it's not shown. From the support perspective, we know there's a string there, but we don't know what the string looked like. And one last thing that we don't collect is logs. For two reasons we don't collect logs. First, because logs might have sensitive information that you don't want to share, and that should be redacted before sending the logs to the support at EDB. And the second is that logs can be very big, and this would slow down the data collector process a lot. So logs are going to be asked separately from the data collector, usually when working on support cases. So the big question is, what is the data collector for? Where can I run the data collector? There's three systems where you can, actually four. There's three systems that you can run the data collector. You can run it on any Postgres supported version. So if you have a server with community edition of PostgreSQL and it's a supported version, the data collector will run perfectly on them. It also runs on older versions of PostgreSQL. That is because it's been here for some time and we still have support for older versions. I happen to know that it works even up to 9.0. I think it would also work on 8. But remember, version 8, version 9, unless it's 9.6, those are not supported anymore, and you should be upgrading if you have systems that are that old. You can also run it on any supported version of EPAS. Well, EPAS is Postgres itself, but with the addition of compatibility that EDB has placed on top of Postgres. So the data collector also works on all supported versions of EPAS, just like with Postgres. And you can also run it on a Barman server. We will check how to run it on a Barman server, but if it's a Barman server and you're running the data collector with the Barman user, the data collector detects that this is a Barman server and it will run special diagnostics that are specific to a Barman server, like running Barman diagnose, Barman check, and some other configurations also gathers that you need that would be needed on a Barman server. Now, the fourth that I mentioned, there's a fourth, is that the data collector can also be executed on a system where the database, Postgres or EPAS, is not running. Let's say that you have a system where you're not able to start Postgres. So in that case, Postgres is installed, but it is not running. There's an option in the data collector that you can run it so that it gathers only information from the operating system and doesn't try to connect to the database. So that's another option that we have available. And it's very useful when we have severity 1 cases where the system is down, but we still need to collect information from the operating system itself. So how does the data collector work? So the first thing is we have this very nice knowledge base article. If you have access to our customer portal at techsupport.enterprisedb.com, you'll be able to access the actual knowledge base articles that are available for our supported customers. And one of them is this article, the URL that you see there, but you can find it very quickly. There's a search option, and there's also filters where you can select knowledge base that are specific to the data collector or to the portal. This one will have a lot of information on how to use it, how to download the data collector, how to run it, and then how to upload it back into the portal so that the support engineers can access the information, or you can also see the output of the data collector directly in Insights. So the first step would be to download the data collector from the portal. You download it, you can download it into your laptop and then copy it to the server where you have maybe a server that doesn't have access to the internet, direct access, and you can run it, you can move it to the server and run the data collector directly on that system. The data collector has to be executed with the correct user. That means with Postgres, if you're using community Postgres, or with the Enterprise DB user in case of using EPAS. And of course, if you're running on a Barman server, a backup server with Barman, you have to execute it with the Barman user. The execution of the data collector will collect all that information and put it inside a tarball. So you'll see a tar bz2 file that is generated in the same directory where you executed the data collector. You are more than welcome to open the tarball and see what we collected. We actually ask customers to do it just to be sure that what we're collecting is not sensitive data. But once you have that collector, usually what we ask is that you upload it to the portal. There's three ways of uploading a collection to the portal. One is just going to Insights and using the button of upload collection, and you can browse and upload the tarball. The other option is just to execute the data collector with the --upload option, and that will run the data collector. And when it finishes creating the tarball, it will open a connection to the EDB systems and upload the collection there. And the third option is just to attach the tarball to a ticket. So usually when there's a support case going on, we would have the user will, the customer will be asked to run the data collector. And after they run it, they would just reply to the same ticket and attach the data collector to the ticket. Those three options are all equal. They are equivalent. It doesn't matter if you use one or the other. The tarball, the collected data will go to the same place and will be inspected, will be checked by our systems, and will be part of the Insights page that you'll see later on. So next thing that happens is that there are some internal process tests that we have prepared for the collections, and these tests will actually, we're going to see them in a moment in the Insights page, but these tests are best practices that we put together inside the data collector. And they will give you valuable information on things that we see are not, could be better. And there's links that you can use to actually gather more information or read more about the specific test that was executed. And finally, we generate a report, or sort of a report, that will be available through Insights, and we will be seeing that very shortly. So how do we download the collector? We go to the EDB portal page and go to the left pane that we have the panel on the left side of the portal page. And you'll see there that we have home, knowledge base. Here's where you'll find the knowledge base articles. And then if you go down, you'll see here the data collector. You can download it directly through the data collector here, or you can go to Insights, and in Insights, you'll have both options: to download the data collector and to upload the tarball, the collection that was already produced by the data collector. So if you go to the data collector page, you'll find something very similar to what you're seeing here. There's 4 types of data collector here. The first one is the most widely used one. It's just a 64-bit Linux system. We also have for 32-bit and for PPC. There is a Windows version, but it's not, at the moment, it's not downloadable through the portal page. You need to request it through support, and support will attach the executable so that you can download it to your systems and execute the data collector on a Windows system. So here you would just go to the download page. This is the last version available. To the download page, download the data collector, and from there copy it to the, or if your systems have access to the internet, you can just run the download directly from this page. I mean, it's basically this what you need to execute. It's a curl output, a curl command with the HTTP access to download the data collector. You see here that I redacted this. This is because this value that is here in the middle is what's called the token. The token is what identifies the customer. It's a value that shouldn't be shared with anybody. You shouldn't even put it on a ticket or anywhere. It should be, it's just for the customer itself to use. So don't disclose the company token with anybody. In this case, I redacted it on purpose, just so to show that I shouldn't be sharing it as well. But it's basically, I would copy this and I would paste it on a system where I can download the data collector. Once I download the data collector, I can execute it on the system that's running Postgres, ePass, or Barman, and then upload the collection. Okay, and this is, resumed. It's not the complete output, but we'll see how the complete output is. This is a resumed version of how to run the data collector. Here we see that we executed the data collector. I had to, snip it so that I got only the first lines and the last ones. And when it's complete, what we'll have is just a tarball in the same directory. We'll see how that's executed. Okay, so let's just go to the demo. So I will just, let me just share. Okay, first I will, I hope it's this one. Give me 1 second. There you go. Sorry for the delay. So here I am. I have two terminals actually. This is a virtual machine that I have on a CentOS system, CentOS 8. I'm just going to move to the actual screen where I have, just clear this. I was already playing with the data collector here. You'll see that I have already, let's do this. So you'll see here that I already have executed the data collector once earlier today. This is all in UTC time. This is the data collector that I already downloaded into the system. And this is the collection. One thing to keep in mind, whenever you share, you upload the collector to our systems, don't change the name of the collector. That is because the collector includes a checksum so that our systems can check that the actual file that was uploaded was not corrupted in the middle. So it's a way of verifying that whatever was in your systems originally and then was uploaded to the EDB site is actually the exact same file. So don't change the name. I can share this is the checksum. So this is the value that we use to check that the file is exactly the same. The other thing that you see in the output is just the name of the system. CentOS 8 is the name of the host, as you can see here in my prompt. Then we have the port number 5432, and this is a timestamp, year, day, month, and 12/25/30 was when the data collector was executed. So let's do a couple of demos here. First of all, you will see that if I psql directly into my system, I get into a server that is running 12.8. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run the data collector against this server. So I'm just going to get out of psql and execute the data collector. The data collector is just executed like this. If you execute it in this way, it will just run correctly. There is one problem that some that we've seen very common, but it's explained in the documentation. Sometimes you get an error about some missing libraries. It's a mistake that Python does whenever on some binaries. This is a Python script that is produced into a binary file. It gets confused because it can't execute the actual, it can't create files. And it's usually because the temp directory doesn't let normal users create directories there. Yes, files, but not directories. So you can get over that by just adding at the beginning tmp_dir equal, and for example, you can do dot, so that means the current directory, and you can run it like this. And this will change the temp directory. Instead of using -temp, it will use the current directory as the temp directory. So let's run it. So this is the data collector is executing. It starts gathering from the operating system, which is a Linux system. You can see system identifier, distribution. It will get also the output of all the packages installed. This is very important when we're dealing with cases so that we know exactly which packages were installed. It also gathers information, IOStat, you can see there. And it takes some time here because the IOStat, it's going to run several, it will make several runs of IOStat and of top. So it like runs one time and then it does a sleep and then runs again, so that it gathers like 2 or 3 snapshots in different times, which is more accurate than just looking at one snapshot alone. And then it goes over all the Postgres databases. You can see that it tries to gather some BDR stuff, and then it finishes. It goes one database at a time. In this case, I only have Postgres and Marques as the 2 databases, which you can see, for example, if I do psql-l, you'll see that those are the 2 main databases. Template 0, template 1 are not interesting. Okay, so what happened? Let's see what got produced in the directory. So now I have another collection. You can see that the collection has a different name. Also, the timestamp is vaguely different, just a couple of hours later. And the MD5 produced here is also different, and it's a tarball file. So we finally have our tarball that was generated. Now, one thing that I mentioned in the earlier in this webinar is that you can actually look at what it is inside the tarball. So I'm just going to open it. I'll use my editor, but you can use any kind of tool that can open a tarball. You can even use WinZip. I don't know. There's a lot of different tools that you can use. You can download it to your local Mac or to your Windows machine and open it there. But I'll just use it here, mostly because I'm very used to working with this editor. So you can see here, this is the structure that is compressed inside this tarball. You can see the SAR output, the top output, PS output. And if you go down, we also have a lot of information from the operating system like dmesh. But I want to go specifically to a couple of things that I wanted to show. One is here. So in the PostgreSQL.conf file, you will see, I'm going to search for it because I purposely added this to the configuration file. There is a password in the configuration file, which is the primary con info, which is normally used for standbys to indicate where to connect over. The primary con info doesn't necessarily need to have the password inside, but you can put a connection string that has the password. So if you look at it, this is what we collected. The primary con info is host localhost, user Postgres, password. And here you can see that we changed the password for redacted. We changed it. We removed the password and instead we put redacted with those inside asterisks. So We know that it was redacted. We know that that is not the password, but we know that there's a password there. We just don't know which one it is, which is fine. So we don't gather any kind of password. We check that passwords are removed before sending the file over. So let me go back to the list. You'll see also some other interesting things like configuration, roles, database. And this is the one that I was talking about. You can actually see the replication and I think I went over this already. Running activities here. So running activities is just the output of pgstat activity. Here, I didn't run any query that had sensitive information, but you can see that there is one from, this is pglogical, that it also has a redacted field here, to redacted. These are strings that pglogical has, and this is also redacted. When you see these hashes, it's because there was a number that was removed. These numbers are actually the LSN from, I think it's LSN from the logical replication. So we try to remove anything that might be sensitive information, especially if it's something that is not of great value for helping you on a support case. So this is the tarball. Let's just exit here. We already saw how the tarball works, how it is generated actually. And now we're going to see what we have to do now. So we got the tarball that was produced by the data collector. Now we need to upload it to the portal. So as this is a VM, I don't have direct access to the portal. This actually doesn't even have a web interface or anything that I can use. So what I'm going to do is, here I have another terminal. This is on my Mac directly. So what I'm going to do is I am going to SCP the actual, oh, first I have to copy it to temp because I'm reading it from there. So I'm just going to, oh, did I do? So I'll just copy this to the temp directory. There you go. And now I can, okay, there we go. So now I have on my Mac system, I have both files. One that, well, the one that I want is actually this one from 2 p.m. UTC, 2:23. So now what I have to do is go to the portal and upload it. So I'm gonna, once again, I'm gonna switch to another sharing screen where you will see the portal. There. Can everybody see my the portal page? I guess we can. Yes. So this is the portal page. Here I am logged in as a customer. You can see my photo, but I'm actually part of this as a test system in our QA environment. But it's very similar to what any customer would see. So you can see that you have the data collector here that you can get in and see the data collector page, just like I showed earlier. And we have also the insights. So here in the insights, initially you'll see the number of instances that have already been uploaded. Here we see that there's 4 Postgres server. These are the versions and CentOS 7 and CentOS 8. On this side, we have add instances. So you have to upload a collection, one link. There's another link to download the data collector, but this will just take you to the same page as if you clicked here on data collector. So what is our interest now? It's to upload a collection. So let's click on upload a collection. We get to this page, there's a browse. We open it, and here I have my 2 collections, which I can look at. And this is the one that I want. The one that was created earlier, later actually. So I'll do OK, and I will submit. So this will start uploading it, and the file will get to our systems. Then it gets processed. And once it's processed, we'll have all the information, and we'll be able to go here to the instances pages, or we can upload another collection in case we have several systems that we need to upload. I'll go to the instances page, and you'll see all the instances that we have uploaded as a customer, as the test 24/7. This is the customer. Each customer has their name there instead of test 24/7. This is just a test company in our QA environment. So this one, you can see, is the collection that we just uploaded. 2:26 UTC is when we collected this, which is exactly the time that it was collected. It tells us the version 12.8, the name with the port number, and it says that we have 10 failed tests. So let's go directly into the insights page for this particular system. So we click here, and this takes us to the improved insights page, which we keep developing. I'm going to check this out so that we have a full view. So this is what we found. We found that this is a Postgres 12.8 on a CentOS 8. We can put a subscription if we know that this is a production server, so that support knows that this is production or testing or dev, QA, or any other kind of environment. In case you uploaded the collection directly to a ticket, you will see the ticket that it relates to right here. And then there's some size and some tags that belong to this instance. Here you have the MD5, the checksum that I mentioned earlier, the time when it was collected. And then this is the very important part, is the issues that we found. So there's one with high severity, one with medium severity, and 8 with low severity. If we click on open issues, we will see each one of these tests that the system found, issues that you should be checking. So I'm going to click on it just to show. So each of these are tests that we found something that, took our attention. The first one that is on red is server login destination. If we click on it, it will tell us specifically what we saw wrong. What we saw wrong is that the Postgres logs were produced inside the data directory log. Usually we recommend having them outside, because logs can, in some cases, they can grow very, very large, and that can fill up the data directory. So we recommend having them on a separate directory, or even better, if you're using syslog or event log or something, some other means of logging, use that to move the logs to, for example, a logging server. But if you keep them on the same system, the best practice is to have it outside the PG data and the PG data, and also have it on a different mount point. So this is exactly what it's saying here. In any case, I can acknowledge this so that I don't get it as a failed test each time I check for the test. So going back to the list of tests, you'll see that here, the orange one here is that I don't have enough requirements for running PG Rewind. This means that if this primary fails and a standby is promoted, I won't be able to use PG Rewind to bring the primary that failed back as a standby. I will have to reclone from a backup. And then there's a lot of others, like multiple Postgres instances. This is something I know because I have a 12 and a 13 version running. And then there's some other, like, transparent huge pages, or I don't know, not having PG stat statements installed. For different executions, you'll have different different tests that show up here where we have something that we would like to share with you as a customer. So these are the tests. Now let's go back to the details of what the collector had, because I mentioned that this was like a nice interface for the data that we are collecting. So we got the versions that you have installed. We have the operating system information, network information, and Postgres information, where the Postgres data is, the time that the postmaster was started. Then we have all the Postgres configuration. These are not all the Postgres configuration. They are the non-default ones. We don't show everything because it would be tremendously large. What we show is what is not the default. So you'll see here, I don't know, the configuration file. Let me see if we have anything outstanding. Log statements is set to all, for example, so we're logging everything. And here we have the archive command is set to bin true. So this is because I was testing archiving, and at some point I decided to remove archiving. Now, we also have wall checkpoints so that we can see how the checkpointer is working. We have extensions that are installed, that are available. These are not extensions that are installed in the databases. It's which extensions are installed in the system and are available to use. And then we have the replication status. So this has a logical replication that I was testing. So you can see that it is active. You can see that it is active. One is active and the other is inactive. It means that one of these is actually a replication using PG Logical that is not working at the moment, and it's something that you should check out. In this case, I did it on purpose so that we would see the replication slot with the active faults. And then the list of databases with the size, the activities, which there wasn't any activity at the moment, because here we're not showing everything. We're not showing backends that are executed, system backends, like for example, the PG Logical backends. Those are not shown here because those are not interesting from the perspective of the running activities. It is interesting from the checking if PG Logical is running correctly. And then we have operating system information. You can look at it, but from memory and software perspective, these are mostly data that is gathered from proc in a Linux system. And at the end, we have the list of process. So this is the list of all the process that are running on the system, which is sometimes very valuable as well. Okay, so this is basically what Insights is and how you can use it. What I would like to also mention, because it happened once, is that we did have a customer who opened a ticket. I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, and we read the ticket. The support engineer knew exactly where the problem might be at. And this customer was very custom of opening the ticket and uploading the collection immediately. We didn't even have to ask. And when we saw where the problem was in the data collector, and we were ready to reply, and this was just a few minutes had passed, probably 10 minutes had passed since he uploaded the collection, the customer replied back saying that he found on Insights what the problem was and was already able to correct it. So this is a case where Insight was so valuable that we didn't even need the support engineer to reply back to the customer was able to find through insights exactly the problem that they had. And this is very valuable information. It's very valuable data for customers. It speeds up resolution of cases. So that is all I have to share. I don't know if there's anything else or there's some questions.
Martin, great stuff. Thank you for walking us through the tool. Excellent demo. We do have a few questions that have come in. So I'm going to start with the first one I see here. Is there a way for Data Collector to collect logs by default?
No, there isn't, and we try to not go in that direction. The two reasons I gave earlier are the ones where it's why we decided not to collect logs at all, from a security perspective, but also because logs can be very large, and we normally recommend customers to check that the logs do not have any sensitive information and send us usually a snippet, just some log files, a short amount of log files, unless the problem is more wide and we need like a larger amount of logs, like a full day of logs.
Got it. Thank you. Next question. Does the data collector need root privileges to collect any information?
That is a very, very good question. So there's two things that I want to add there. First, it doesn't need root access, not at all. It runs as the Postgres user. It does need the Postgres or Enterprise DB user, the user that is running the database. That's number one. And number two, it doesn't collect data using the Postgres user. So, well, depends on the version of Postgres you're running the data collector, but on any supported version of Postgres, what the collector is going to do, it's going to change the role to the PG monitoring role, and it's going to use the PG monitoring role to generate the collection. So it gathers the information using the PG monitoring role, not the Postgres or Enterprise DB super user.
Thank you. We have a couple more here. Next question, may I use this tool to upload my data collector collection just to analyze it myself without necessitating an open support ticket?
Yes, you may. And we actually encourage customers to do that.
Excellent. Next question. Where do the output tar files saved in EDB environment, and what if the client asks for removing their collected information from the EDB storage location?
Yes, those are stored in an S3 bucket, completely secured and encrypted. If a customer asks for those to be removed, they can, and we can remove them. They will also be removed from the insights, so they won't have be able to see them there as well.
Okay, all right. And I see one last question here. So I invite all attendees here to get their questions in now, so we can make sure we get to any on the end of the call here. The last one I see is, can the Linux package manager be used to install data collector instead of manually downloading and installing it?
Yes, I have. There's two parts to that. So first, let me talk a bit of the introduction of something that I forgot in the introduction to say about the data collector. It was always thought as a disposable tool, something that you download, you run, and then you throw away. Mainly because we keep evolving and we keep adding new features, and we want the customers to use the last version that gathers more information or that has fixes to any kind of bugs that were found. That's like the first part. Now, that said, we do know that for some customers, it is important to audit whatever is running on their system. So it's not like, I don't know, some security company or some bank or a company that has some security screening of anything that is installed on the system would not be able to download the data collector and execute it directly on the servers. So we do have packages for the data collector as well, and you can you'll find it inside the products page in the portal. And
Awesome.
so
Thank you.
You have repositories both for Debian Ubuntu or RHEL CentOS.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much. I think we just had one more just jump in here. Is the data collector tool available in the EDB repository?
It's only available through the EDB portal, downloading it directly, or through repositories in the EDB portal, not through the website. So not through the repositories that are downloaded through the websites.
Okay, thank you, Martin. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. So I think we can wrap up a few minutes early if no questions come in here. I'll remind the audience that we love to hear from you. So if you have any questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team, the customer success team, and however we can help you, we will make every effort to do so. So that being said, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week and upcoming weekend. And a final thank you to Martin for walking us through the data collector and insights tool.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Martin. It was really useful. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
You're welcome, Sunil. Bye-bye.